Some stories are worth watching. And every journey has its beginning. Whether it's a quick stop for some fuel and snacks, or out beyond that asteroid belt, wherever you go, you'll find moments to stare. Beautiful, efficient, and just enough teeth to get you through a scrape. Let me introduce to you Consolidated Outland's newly redesigned 2948 Mustang Beta. More than a ship, a partner. Consolidated Outland, where risk meets reward.
We just saw the winning entry in our recent Consolidated Outland Mustang commercial contest. Congratulations to the crew that made that pretty impressive ad.
Yeah, it was very impressive. There were some familiar names in the credits there, like Mr. Haskar. But you know what? Like the entries were actually really impressive. So I would definitely recommend
check them out.
Not just checking out the winning one, but the runners-up and the other entries too. There's a thread that has them all in, and the community-generated content is awesome. So well done, everybody.
It is, and with that, we welcome you to another episode of Around the Verse. I'm Sandy Gardner.
And I'm Chris Roberts.
Today, we'll dig into some ongoing progress with Quartet, but first, we're going to take a look at the state of Alpha 3.3 and some upcoming changes to the roadmap.
Yes, so we've got some good news and some bad news.
Okay, give me the good news first.
Okay, that's always much better. So Alpha 3.3 is going live tomorrow, which is really cool. And 3.35 with Hurston and Lawville part of it is coming to the PTU in short order as soon as we go live on 3.3. We had to get 3.3 out live to people before we could move the next sort of release into the PTU phase. So that's a really important step, and people will be able to play, a nice stable 3.3, but also have explore Hurston, even if they're willing to put up with a few crashes in the PTU. And that all gets us closer to next thing up the list.
Well, that doesn't suck.
No, it doesn't. It's a little later than we wanted to be, but it's a lot of content. And the most important thing is the object-containing streaming technology is now stable enough for us to go live, and that's a big, big thing because we've been working on that for well over a year. And it's the sort of tech pillar that's going to allow us to scale the rest of the world on the client side, and then on the technology side, we're really happy because that's sort of passing a pretty big goalpost that we need to get past. It's taken us obviously longer than we thought, and it's been a bit more complicated and difficult than we thought, but that is the case with that sort of R&D that you have to do, and there's so many issues that go into it that we've already discussed. It's good to be done. Good to get that working.
Very cool. So what's the bad news then?
Okay, well, the bad news is some things are going to move out of 3.4 into 3.5. I think people understand or are aware of the fact that 3.3 has been running late. So it's been putting a lot of pressure on 3.4. And the biggest knock-on, and this is probably not particularly apparent to people, is the fact that each one of our releases, when we make a 3.3 or a 3.2, comes from game dev, which is our main development stream. And so it tends to be both a combination of slightly unstable and also full of a whole bunch of content that you're not ready or you don't want to put in the current release. Instead of excluding things, because we've got so many things, we include things and say, okay, we want these things in this release. And so it takes a lot of time, anywhere from, I think we've never done it shorter than 2 weeks, but it's more usually like 4 weeks, because we have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of files. Game dev itself is almost 2 terabytes of just the data set of game dev itself. And that's not just the archive stuff, that is like the actual working set. So most people actually only have a small portion of it, depending on what area they're working on. So we have to make sure that the right ones are going across, and there's only the stuff that you need for 3.3, which then also takes time to stabilize. So if we go back, after we get 3.3, back to game dev, and then try to stabilize it, and then also test it and get it out, everybody on the development side, and this was something that came up just this week, essentially have said it's going to put us in risk of releasing 3.4 by the end of this year. So we still want to be date-driven when we can, when we're not waiting for some tech pillar. And so we made the hard decision to basically stay in the 3.3 branch, which will become 3.4 once 3.3 and 3.3.5 is out, and then move the bits of content and functionality across that we can easily from game dev. That means that we can't move everything that we were planning to have for 3.4, and some stuff is a bit of a bridge too far, so we're going to lose some.
So what are these things that are being pushed out?
Okay. Well, I was just saying that, so some of the things we can move from game dev and some of the things we can't. Now we're going to have the Hurston Business District in 3.4, so we're making sure that's going to be in and polished. We're going to do a lot more work and improvements on the FOIP and the VoIP stuff. The other ships that we had scheduled for coming in for 3.4 will be in 3.4 as well, because it's much easier to bring a ship or a weapon or an item or a gun across. But you'll know in the roadmap that's going to be updated tomorrow what has moved and what hasn't moved. So the biggest one's the female player character, because that touches a massive amount of stuff.
But why is it so hard for me to get my female character that I want?
It's not just the fact that there's thousands of animations that have to be done. I mean, we have the same issues that you do in the real world, where in your car seat you can adjust your seat to, if you've got different length arms or different legs, and the female skeleton is 5'8" and the male skeleton is 6 foot. So we have to have solutions for the female getting into cockpits and not having the hands hyperextended or the legs hyperextended. So there's some tech that comes in there. There's some stuff that happens in the character customizer. Clothes are another issue. So there's a huge amount. It touches a massive amount of departments, and it's a lot of work. And people have been working on it for quite a while, so it's not something that we just started. It just is in game dev and not in a position to bring it into the 3.3 stream. The other one is ArcCorp. ArcCorp has a whole bunch of planet improvements that have happened in game dev. We have some shader work we've done for the new city stuff that's sitting in game dev, so we can't get that across, which kind of stops it, and LODs for the cities and stuff, so we can't bring that across. And also, it's just ArcCorp's big, and we want to take the time to do it right. And that's okay, because ArcCorp itself probably, we've been compressed by how long 3.3's taken, so it'd be nice to really make sure that's well. But those are the two sort of big headline ones. On a ship basis, we're in pretty good shape on all the ships, except the 300 series has sort of run up right against the end of the year, and that's not including things like the LODs and the setups for the damage states and stuff like that, and the variants. So we sort of made the decision to move that out to 3.5 to give them time to finish all that up properly. But those are the sort of big headline ones that have moved out.
But making this decision, why now? Why am I hearing about it now? Why do you make these decisions? It seems late, is what it feels to me. But
well, yeah, I mean, this came. We do our Monday morning leadership meetings, and in the most recent meeting, basically production came back, crunched the numbers, and said, look, if we go from game dev into 3.4, based on if we come into the worst case scenario and it takes us 4 weeks to stabilize that, we're going to have no time to get testing and PTU and Evocati and be out for December 20th. So basically, everyone came back on the development side and said, look, if we do this, we'll be in grave risk of missing a 3.4 release at the end of the year on December 20th.
right.
So
it's either no 3.4 for me or 3.4 light.
Yes.
I love finding these things out.
Yeah, well, you're not the only one. But we're a big company, and there's a lot of things going on. We have better tools now to look at how long it takes us and estimate trajectories and make decisions in soon enough time to not have everything, like for instance, miss getting out of 3-4 at the end of the year.
So is there any silver lining in my bad news?
Well, I don't know if there's a silver lining other than, I mean, we're working on all these things, right? So, we try to share everything as it happens live. So really the proper answer on, why is it so late is because you're basically letting out it within a week of us deciding that and coming to that realization. It's not something we've been sitting on for months. We were hoping and projecting to get 3.3 stable and out weeks ago, and we haven't. It's taking a little time, right. But it's worth it because 3.3, and this is one of the reasons why we sort of deviated slightly from the date-driven model, because object container streaming is foundational tech. It's a major pillar to be able to, for us to be able to have worlds with the detail and fidelity we want on a sort of universal scale, and we have to get that working, or else you just won't be able to load all this, extra content in, whether it's ArcCorp or Microtech or another star system. You also won't be able to have it perform well if everything has to be loaded into memory. So, people have definitely been seeing an improvement in performance because of object container streaming and band culling, which are two critical parts to make it work. And once we have it done, and we're almost there, we're like just about ready to, we're at the goalpost in a sense.
So you're still working on everything, but I thought you guys were working on some, making the game dev more efficient.
Well, our goal is with game dev is that we're going to quarantine it, and we're going to have some downstream development streams that people do their feature development in. And so what will happen if that's the case is they'll develop a feature in their feature stream, and then once it's done, it will get reviewed, and then once we say, okay, this looks good, it will go through what's called a QATR, which is a QA test request, and we'll get fully tested, and then we decide, okay, is it stable, does it work well, does it hurt performance? And if it doesn't, but if it is stable and doesn't hurt performance, and it all works well, then it gets put into game dev. So we're only going to put things into game dev that are working and have been tested and have been polished, which will mean that game dev itself will be a lot more stable, and therefore it'll have several benefits. One, people like artists who are always at the mercy of someone putting something unstable in game dev and crashing the editor. They get the editor tool and they want to build an environment. It crashes because someone's got some other feature that's broken now. To be able to test these streams and have all these multiple, whether it's a release stream and a game development stream and a feature stream, and there's multiple feature streams, the build system has to be able to handle all those streams and deal it, and what we call copy build is our internal tool that you download. Whatever build you want to do has to be able to take that.
This is the short answer, folks.
So anyway, it's a lot of work. Everyone's been working on the DevOps side and the tool side on this for over a year, and that's our goal, and we're planning to have this rolling out in the beginning of next year.
So we're still working on all this stuff then?
Yes, we are most definitely working on all the stuff. Some other things that are in game dev, like the cloud tech, which we're extremely excited by. And we're actually doing some really cool stuff with it, so I think we actually have a little piece to show about that.
Cool. Here's Jake Mathis and Jake Gainey to show us the current state of the cloud generation tool and its variable uses.
So this is the new volumetric tool that I've been working on for not too long now, and it's still in very early development. But the main focus of the tool is to help artists create volumetric clouds and gas clouds in much faster iterations that we have been in the past. So we can see here is a nice, relatively simple shape, and at this stage we just want the silhouette of the clouds. So we look at the borders here, this is our body and what we're going to start with, and by adding more geometry to it, with using the tool, doing this for you procedurally and automatically, we've gone from a really simple shape of the cloud into a much more traditional cloud that you would see with these nice soft edges here. This is the key thing that we've really been lacking in the past, and from there you can iterate on it really quickly, really fast, and now we're cutting down development from weeks and months to days and weeks. So moving on from there, we're now moving on to the L system, or lines and splines. So we created this tool to help artists create the more organic look within the coil. We do that by using curl noise wrapped around using the initial spline that you saw before to really add all these really intricate patterns and lines that just wasn't there, and something it's this iteration that really helps drive development. From that simple spline that we saw turning into something more intricate and more detailed, such as this here, we can see all these gaps within the clouds. We can see all of the fluffiness, and it's not really something that was done. If we look at the clouds now, it's got really hard edges, and it's no longer a cloud, it's just geometry turned into volumes. So as we can see from the demo, the tool is really quick at creating volumetrics with a lot of detail that just weren't able to in the past. And because it's so easy, designers can now show artists what they were talking about and what they envision, rather than telling artists what they're thinking. We're hoping that as development continues, we can take this tool into Max and Myers to allow artists to actually work in their native programs, rather than having to learn a whole new set of programs just to work on one new scene.
So I'm just going to take you through how we normally approach setting up a space scene in the game. In Squadron 42 we've got various spacescapes to make. One challenge that we have is trying to create interest within space scenes. As you can see from this is just a derelict location in the middle of space, and it's okay, but it's all you've really got is the derelict plus the star field. So we use technology called gas cloud, which uses volumetric VDB to create interest within those spaces. I'll just drop one of those into the engine and take you through how I would normally set up and approach one of these space scenes in the game. So this is our volumetric entity, which is called the gas cloud VDB. And I'm just going to drop one of the stock kind of volumes that the VFX team have made in their tool into the scene, and kind of put this in place. And you can see, even though this is the kind of base VDB and it's kind of got no color information or anything like that on it at the moment, it's already creating something quite interesting in the scene. Once we've placed this, we can then start to kind of play around with color, which I'll do now. Let's go for something more towards the kind of the orangey reds. And we can also then play around with the density of it as well. So you can have something which is a little bit more wispy and kind of vague, or then you can go for something which is quite dense and volumetric, something kind of along those lines. And it gives you, as an artist, it gives you an awful lot of control to craft these space scenes in the way that you would want to. So just drop that guy in there, and you can kind of place them how you want to, scale them up a little bit, and create something quite interesting. And I'm just going to drop into the game now and show you how that feels to fly around. So you can see straight away we've gone from something which is in the middle of open space, not much interest, to something which feels very cool. As a player, this feels like a cool location to come and find in the game. Here's just a few different examples of different results that you could achieve with the same technology and the same tool that the VFX guys have been making. So this is probably, I would say, the more extreme end of the example. It's quite kind of dense and kind of volumetric, and this is more towards the kind of the coil. But then you can also do stuff which is a little bit softer, more the Star Trek style nebula. It's just kind of colour in space, really. And you can also then get some quite wacky results from it too. And this is all using the same technology, and you can see from just 3 different examples there how you can craft pretty much 3 quite kind of independent visual space locations.
Wow, that looks pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's definitely cool. I mean, it's we were developing the tech first off for Squadron, but we're going to use it extensively through the PU in a lot of different situations. In fact, in some situations, like just around a derelict or a small asteroid, that you may not even think that it's using the big volumetric cloud tech. But I'm looking forward to, because we're going to scape space, sort of almost like an environment, and have space weather. It's going to be cool.
All right, and that just about does it for us today. Tune in to Reverse the First live tomorrow on Twitch, where environmental art director Ian Leyland will follow up on his team's various CitizenCon presentations and talk Lorville with Jared. Thanks, of course, to the subscribers for sponsoring these shows.
Yeah, thanks to all subscribers, and also a huge thank you as well to the backers for supporting the development of Star Citizen and Squadron 42. We could not do it without you guys. And until next time, we will see you Around the verse. Thanks for watching. For the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42, you can subscribe to our channel, or you can check out some of the other shows, and you can also head to our website at www.robertsspaceindustries.com. Thank you very much for watching.